Good morning, Ags.
Good morning, Ray. How are you?
Good. So you were telling me there while that was playing that you play it faster now when you're playing it live.
Yeah, no, well, songs too, it's one of those things, it's a sort of constant about the universe. Songs tend to get faster the more you play them. I don't know why.
Is that boredom? Is it a sort of familiarity?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I mean, we don't play very often, live very often these days. So it's like 4 years since we were last in Ireland.
Yeah, and this is a unique gig because firstly it's in the lovely setting of the Royal Hospital Kilmainham, and secondly it's your only Irish and UK gig this year.
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, we had an amazing year last year. You know, won a Brit Award, released a couple of new songs, remastered and re-released our whole back catalogue in a box set. But it was all sort of UK focused. Did an amazing show at the to close the Olympics in Hyde Park, and we just enjoyed it so much. And we thought, what the hell? Let's get out into some places where we haven't been for a while. Really, just to say thank you to everyone for being so patient and supportive over these over the years.
You're sort of fit in today's show because we've just said goodbye to 3 people who have turned their back on sort of solid jobs and started doing something they love doing. Now, you've sort of done that in that, you're now sort of into cheese, you have a farm, a million miles away from the rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah, well, you say that, but I think a lot of musicians do end up living on farms. I mean, maybe it's sort of the need to put roots down after years of living out of a suitcase. But I think, it's sort of 2003 that Blur really kind of stopped, and it'd been 15 years of us doing the same thing, just the 4 of us. It's a long time. I think we just all needed to go off and do other things, we've all worked with other people, and so when we come back to play together, I think we do it just because we want to. There's no pressure. I think that if you do the same thing every day for 15 years, it does become sort of cyclical and repetitive, and I don't know, I think we just all needed to go off and do other things, and it's actually the best thing we ever did, splitting up.
So the motivation of, getting back together every so often, is it to scratch an itch, or, is it just to sort of fulfill that addiction to playing in front of a crowd, or is it money?
Well, I think back in 2009 when we got back together, they were the best shows we'd ever done, and I think we all thought that was a good place to leave it, maybe. But then we got the call to do this big show last summer to mark the end of the Olympics, and I think we all felt that we can't really say no to that. It's such an honour to be asked, it was just so brilliant. I think we thought, well, what's not to like, really? I think we just loved playing the songs. And we've done maybe a dozen festivals around the world, places we've never played before this year, like in Hong Kong and Indonesia and Poland, and the first 30 rows of the concerts, it's not people our age, it's a whole new audience. It's like teenagers. Yeah. So it's a source of real delight, and I think the people we're finding a new audience, and the songs live and breathe, and why the hell not do it if
You were always an ever-changing band, because you were there in the first wave of Britpop, There's No Other Way, which was that sort of...
And that was going back to baggy days. That was like pre-Britpop, really.
But it was a definite sound, wasn't it? And then you progressed. And is there any...
That's what makes you want to keep doing it. That's the difficult thing. Evolving. It's much harder to be. It's like a million times harder to be the first of something than to be the second. But it's sort of what makes you want to get up in the morning, and do and make stuff. Make new stuff.
Yeah, I was watching telly the other night, and I just happened upon a sort of a best of the Buzzcocks. Never mind the Buzzcocks.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and I thought that's a really good voice over there. Who's that? And then your name comes up at the end, Alex James. That's not the same. It's you.
Yeah. Did you see that? It's a good show, isn't it?
It is a good show. It is a good show because it's not just. There's a bit of thought gone into how it's compiled. It's not just chronological. They sort of there's an edge to it.
It's a wonderful archive. They've got 20 years of they've been making that show. So there's so many great bits. So
and if
I'm a big fan of the show. So when they asked me to get involved, I was all over it. Yeah, definitely. But this year has been a wonderful thing, because I have, as you mentioned, I've been basically living on a farm since Blur split up in 2003. Very static and sort of calm lifestyle, kind of like a monk making cheese, and suddenly it's all back on, and I'm zooming all over the world with the band, and I'd really forgotten how much I love doing it. And I think because we're just doing a really scant few shows, we're really getting a lot from playing the songs, because we don't play them very often. So we tend to get very excited, and the audience tends to get excited.
What's your favourite song to play live?
Do you know what? For Tomorrow goes down really well. We're doing a sort of long version of it with a brass section and backing singers. It's quite a big band we've got on stage, like brass section, backing singers, and keyboards, and that's the moment for me, For Tomorrow. But it's.
And you've talked about this so many times, but I've never spoken to you before, so I'm going to do it again. Sorry about this, but I remember, I can still remember where I was. I was in Snaffle's nightclub in Kildare, and the big debate was Blur or Oasis. And I remember Colin Whelan. He said, "Look, it's Oasis. Look at Wonderwall." And I said, "No, but look at Universal. Look at that song. That's an amazing song." So it's all those years on. Who do you reckon won?
Well, ironically, Noel and Damon are like best mates now.
All right.
They go off to smoke cigars together. and I think we realised we were all on the same side eventually.
Yeah. Ray went to Poland to the Heineken opener to see Blur early this month. They were amazing, best band to see live, and love Blur and listening to Alex every Saturday night on Classic FM. You're a DJ as well. You're a broadcaster.
Yeah, I really, it was moving to the countryside and having children. I'd never really listened to classical music, but then I accidentally heard some French horns, and I thought, oh, that sounds really relaxing, and I started to discover classical music. So that really sort of helps with. And
do you go into do you pre-record it, or do you go in on a Saturday night, or do you broadcast from home?
I've had to pre-record a couple this year, because
Yes, you've been away. Yes, yeah.
It's tricky.
What about the John Peel model? Do you remember I saw that brilliant documentary when he celebrated his 60th birthday?
Yeah.
And he'd moved out to the country just like yourself, and then he'd converted the stables into a studio.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm making this up in my head, but I have this scene of him.
No, we went there. We played. We played in his garden, actually.
Yes.
He had a little stage in the garden as well. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, that's what you want.
And he walked across the courtyard with a steaming cup of coffee in his hand, and he's still in his dressing gown over to do his radio show. Now I'm
actually in my dressing gown now, Ray.
That's the life, isn't it? Will you tell Alex I love hearing his voice on the Nevermind the Buzzcocks best bits? Watch it and then remember it's him. Love him. Says that.
Oh, that's nice.
What age are you, Alex? Do you mind me asking, what age are you?
I'm 44 now, father of 5. I've just taken them all on holiday. We just got back. Absolutely wore me out. So
yeah.
It'd be really nice to get back on. Going on tour is nothing compared to taking 5 kids on.
What ages are they?
Say again?
What ages are your children?
Eldest is 9, and then there's twin 7s, a 4 and a 3.
Oh, you have your hands full there, don't you?
Yeah. Well, all the wives and girlfriends came out to Coachella, the festival we played in America, and my wife Claire was like half an hour before we were due to go on. She was like, "Alex, will you just look after the kids for a minute?"
I love that.
And somebody said, "Do you get nervous about going on stage?" I said, "Oh, mate, I can't wait to get on stage and just have a rest."
Yeah. So you've your own line of cheese now as well.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, people used to throw cheese at me, but right since day one, I've always loved cheese. Some musicians get knickers thrown at them. I get cheese thrown at me. I love it. And
what's your favourite cheese, or does it change? Is it it depends on your humour, does it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, Ireland is a fantastic place for cheese. Kilmainham, I was down there a year or so ago, visiting them, looking at the breed that they make there, and there's so many great Irish cheeses.
See, I'm allergic to cheese, Alex.
You're allergic to cheese? Well, let's move on.
Yeah.
But I've got
I love it. I love it. And every so often, I fall off the wagon and I go, and then I feel shit after. But anyway, so are all your cheeses named after? I see you have a Blue Monday cheese. Have they all got musical references?
I wanted to make that a 12-inch.
Hey.
No, I mean it's quite creative, like working on recipes for cheese. It's you know, making cheeses. There's so many different kinds of cheese. That, you know, everywhere I go, there's a different name for cheese. Like, you know, in Poland, what's it called in? I can't even remember what cheese is called in Poland. But whenever a cheese there's a different word for cheese. There's a different thing for cheese, and I've discovered like dozens of new varieties.
How do you eat how do you have it? Do you have it with crackers, or what's the purest way of eating cheese? Do you think?
Well, it depends on the kind of cheese. I think it's hard to beat it. A bit of baguette, really, isn't it? With a nice Irish brie, that'd be lovely.
And a glass of wine, or do you drink?
Oh, the beer's good. Beer's good with cheese. Like,
Is it? Right.
Yeah, any cheese, any beer, always, one improves the other, yeah.
Right, okay, right.
You know, brie was invented in Ireland.
I didn't know that. I would have assumed it was French. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, no, the French monks that
right.
took it back to Brittany or Normandy and sort of stole it, basically.
Right. What was the most extravagant thing you did when you were in the rock and roll lifestyle?
Well, we sent a spaceship to Mars. That was quite ridiculous.
Did you?
Yeah. The British, it crash landed, unfortunately. But there was a British mission to Mars in 2003.
Yeah.
It was sort of the last thing we did, really, before we split up. We had a
Beagle
sort of...
2, was it?
Pardon?
Beagle 2.
Beagle 2, that's right. Yeah. But sadly, it crash landed.
That's not very rock and roll, though, is it, Alex? Really, and, you know, I was hoping about, you know, women and champagne and big cars and none.
No, it was tedious. Terrible.
What?
Happened.
Say again.
That was tedious. Nothing happened.
Oh, right, okay. Well, listen, you're Royal Hospital Kilmainham next Thursday. That's tomorrow week, August 1st.
They're Bat for Lashes and the
Strypes.
A really good young Irish band, the Strypes.
We've had them in recently. Yeah, they're seemingly great live. I haven't seen them live, but the reports are that they're brilliant.
Yes. So we really can't wait to get there, and I think we'll have a very, very good night.
Okay, and we'll suggest that people bring bits of brie to throw at Alex. Alex, great talking to you.
Great talking to you, Ray. Nice fun. All the best, mate. Cheers.
The Ray Darcy Show on Today FM.